So here's another one. And boy, this is why the guys in Whitby are probably protesting me right now. Should we expect stronger storms and more floods under global warming in the Northwest? In fact, some groups are already suggesting our weather has become far more extreme. Is that happening? Will that happen? And what I'm suggesting is we don't know. That's the fair answer, and that's the accurate answer. In fact, if you look at the west coast of the United States, in fact, I've done this, the number of windstorms and floods have actually increased a bit over the last few decades here in Washington. But if you go south of Central Oregon, they've actually decreased. So we don't see some uniform increase in severe weather, floods, and windstorms along the west coast. Some places it's increasing, some places it's decreasing. And in fact, studies of the Climate Impacts Group, the UW, suggest that there's no indication that this pattern is associated with global warming. Now, let me tell you something a little bit more. Storms, like floods, the atmospheric river events that produce the heavy rain and our big windstorms, they're very closely associated with the jet stream. Everybody's heard of the jet stream, right? It's a strong current of winds in the upper troposphere. And that current of winds, of westerly winds, tends to control the storms. Now, most climate models suggest that the jet stream will move northward under global warming. And in fact, the lower portions of it will weaken. The upper portions may strengthen, the lower portions may weaken. So it is possible that as the jet stream moves northward, we may end up with less big storms, less atmospheric rivers. And some people suggest that's what's already happening in California, but I'm not sure about that. But I'm saying to you that we're not sure exactly what's going to happen here. It depends where we are with respect to the jet stream and other details. It's too early to tell. Okay, and I think that's I think I've said that. Well, now I want to talk about what I call extreme craziness. Greenhouse warming advocacy groups and some activist scientists have been making unfounded claims that individual extreme events like Hurricane Sandy, or the heat wave in Texas, are undoubtedly the effects of global warming. And the media highlights such reports. They put them in they put the headlines that Sandy is due to global warming, whatever. So what and the PR is everywhere. Even politicians are getting involved in this. Cuomo and Bloomberg all saying Sandy is the result of climate change. And what about the Texas heat wave? That was a big one, right? The 2000 Texas heat wave. You remember that? There were all kinds of claims that is surely the effects of global warming, and there were even some claims from a colleague of mine in Oregon, the Oregon State climatologist, who was suggesting that as well. But if you take a real close look at this, you find that this is really unfounded. In fact, if you look at the temperatures in Texas, as an example, this shows you the trends in Texas temperatures. Okay, there's the actual temperatures over there, and you'll see that 2011, which is the end there. So this is over a period of time. There was an extreme value in 2011, but there's no real hint of any type of trend over a long haul. So what I'm telling you is that when people claim that individual events are some proof of global warming, 99% of the time what they're telling you is not true. So the question I want to ask you I believe that global warming is a very serious issue for our species. It is an extremely serious issue. Are we making any progress dealing with global warming? And I'm going to suggest to you the answer is clearly no. We are making virtually no progress. Okay. We are going to do the experiment. We are going to experience global warming. At this point, it looks like it could happen. Well, for instance, take a look at the amount of CO2 measured at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii. And this goes back from 1960 to 2010. And you can see it's progressively going up. Maybe it's even steeper than before. I mean, do you see with, all the Priuses people have bought and stuff? Do you see any trend downward there? You don't. And, it's not surprising. If you look at the carbon emissions around the world, it's going up like mad. Now, this figure over here, which is not the best figure, shows you the change in carbon emissions for China, which is starts at the bottom line in the beginning, and the top is the U.S. And what you see is that, we were progressively going up steadily. And the last few years, because of the bad economy and maybe people being more careful, our carbon emissions actually went down for a bit. But not in China. They are putting in one carbon, one coal-fired plant after the other. It's going up exponentially there. And so, as India and China burn more and more fossil fuel to support their population and the transition of a larger middle class, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere is not going down. And, we can't feel like we're guiltless here. We are implicated profoundly in China's emissions. We are now shipping large amounts of coal to China. And there are plans for new terminals and an increase to hundreds of millions of tons of coal shipped to China right through our area right around here. What do you think is going to happen when we ship 150 million tons of coal to China, right? We're responsible too. And when you buy your stuff at Walmart, where do you think the stuff comes from? So we're implicated in this too. So what do we do about global warming? Well, first, and this may be good for me, we need more research. We really need to keep on doing the research necessary to figure out what the threat is, and particularly how it will change regionally. How will global warming play out in various regions? I think we can make a lot of progress there. But I'm suggesting to you, global warming is going to happen. And so the key right now for our species is adaptation and resilience, to build that into our society. We can begin now by enhancing the infrastructure. So New York doesn't flood, as an example, and the seawall doesn't give way. And we can also improve weather forecasting, because at least with good weather forecasting, we can give people enough warning to get out of the way of things like Sandy. We need to invest in research on new energy technologies, because we need to not only reduce carbon emissions, but we have to do it at equal or less cost than we're doing right now. People are not willing to sacrifice, in general, to reduce carbon emissions. And I can tell you this, okay, I'm going to get into real trouble now. I got people in my department who are the leaders, some of the leaders in the world on global warming issues. These people know the threat better than anyone else. But are they denying themselves that trip to Hawaii? Are they denying themselves going to that meeting where they're burning all that fossil fuel? They're not. So some even have second houses. So the people who know it the most are not willing to sacrifice. And I can't see society in general doing that. The thing we don't talk about that really drives global warming is population control. The population of the planet is increasing. Plus, there's more people, and there's a rising middle class. That is actually one of the best things we have going in the world today. The middle class is growing. And as the middle class grows, people have less kids. So in the end, the way to solve the population problem is to get more middle class people. But they burn more fossil fuels. That's the problem. And carbon taxes may be a good thing to do. That may be carbon is something that's neutral in terms of the taxes. So what I'm going to suggest to you, and I'm going to end because I want to leave plenty of time for questions. Global warming is very serious business. So if those people in South Whidbey Island think I was going to tell you that we don't have to worry about it, they're wrong. Global warming is going to happen here, but it's going to be delayed. And it's going to be weaker than other places at first. But eventually there will be serious impacts, and not the least will be the fact that the snowpack will decline, and so we'll have less water late in the summer and early fall. Fortunately, we could save ourselves by building more dams and reservoirs. Don't believe all the hype and false information provided by the media and advocacy groups on both sides. They're both telling you stories. Some tell you you don't have to worry because it hasn't warmed up the last 10 years. And I'll talk about that if you'd like, and other people tell you that every extreme weather event is a sign of global warming. And so with that, I will end and open it up to questions. And I'm happy to talk not only about climate change, but weather prediction, or the weather of the Pacific Northwest, or anything you like. So.
We'll start in the back, and we want to, if you ask your question, we'll repeat it so everybody can hear the question.
I appreciate your discussion of the role of greenhouse gases, but what about the fact that we've had ice ages every 10, 20,000 years forever in the past, which has been 20-degree changes?
Right.
Are you taking that into account in your thinking here?
The question is, what about ice ages that have periodically happened in the past, and is he taking that into account in what he's talking about?
You know, it's really interesting. Our species has the ability to stop the next ice age. So in some ways, global warming is a good thing over the long term. That, we would have gone into another ice age eventually. The thing is, the issue about that is very, very, very slow. The changes in solar radiation is sort of associated with what we call the Milankovitch cycle, the change of the orbital properties of the Earth and the tilt and stuff. Eventually, we would go into an ice age, probably in a few thousand years. But those changes are very, very slow. What we're doing is we're hitting the system extremely rapidly. So on a sort of geological time scale, what we're doing is in an instant of time,